Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am your host, Mark Goldberg. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the show. That is my homage to Andy Hunter Adrikos. Long may you wave. Guys, today we have a topic. We have at least one special guest, and yes, we are rebel streaming. In fact, I would rub the mug, but I'm going to rub the virtual mug. Val Gray Moon and Dr. TikTok. Val Gray Moon first. Let me add our guest to the stream. Clyde, the Rancher Anderson. How are you, my friend?
Great, Mark. You never have to rub the mug to get me to come on your stream.
Well, aren't you sweet? What do I have to rub? Your ego?
No, that would be stroking my ego.
Well, I will stroke you anytime, Clyde. Thank you for joining me. We do have a topic today. Rolex, buy or sell. We'll get to that eventually. First, we're going to have to fill this room up with people who would rather watch you and me rather than Archie, who I assume is on right now. You think? Is he?
I don't know.
Me either. I don't know. First, let me address the punters who are.
And by the way, we are Rebel Wilson streaming.
Rebel Wilson streaming.
Rebel Wilson streaming.
You wascally wabbit, Clyde. Yes, indeed, we are.
Be very quiet. I'm hunting minotaurs.
Okay, guys, let me just set the scene. First of all, for those of you who are joining us not live, but like when this posts up to YouTube, which will be the majority of you, there's going to be a few shenanigans greeting people and setting the stage here, and just the annoying live streamy stuff. So you people just move this, just go ahead about 5 or 7 minutes, and you'll get into the meat and potatoes of this video, which is going to be Rolex, should you buy or sell, plus your Rolex questions for me and Clyde, or any luxury or watch related questions. But first, Clyde, we're going to say hello to the 30-some people that are in this room so far. We've got Val Gray Moon, Dr. TikTok, LV, Robert Herrera, and there's a bunch of people in here who are not commenting. So a couple things, guys. First, when you come into the room, smoosh the like button. You can lick it with your tongue or you can hit it with your finger, but do that because likes are very hard to come by, Clyde, on live stream, and especially when you appear. Why do you think that is, Clyde? Why? What do the punters have against you? What's the problem here?
I don't know. I'm misunderstood.
I think so. I mean, here's what happens every time you come on my live stream, Clyde. I lose a few subscribers, and yet I think you are one of the most endearing and enchanting of all the Rolex raconteurs. I really mean YouTube raconteurs. I think you're at the top of my list.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I remember you and Archie with Friday Night Live with Clive, and I've told you this story a couple of times, but I remember coming across you broadcasting with Archie, and the first couple times that I listened to you, I could barely. I couldn't handle it because your voice is so, soothing and manly. And I thought you were dull, but I just had to listen long enough to realize, oh no, you were a very sharp wit. And at key moments, you would begin to skewer Archie, and then I began to love you. And the more I loved you, the less Archie loved you. It was the skewering. Yes, it was the skewering.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Also, those of you who object to Archie broadcasting, on a daily basis, Clyde, who do they have to thank for that idea?
I think that's you. No, wait. I think that's Doc BBW.
No. I mean, look, we can blame Doc for a lot of things, but I don't believe him. I don't believe we can blame him for this one. It was you, Clyde. You said, "Hey, you'll make more easy free money if you e-bag 7 days a week instead of only one."
No. It's when I said, but you could probably work. You could probably not make as much money while working less. And at that point, his head bobbed up like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it was
wasn't until I got his attention until I said that.
You know what? If you know how Archie's coming to the United States pretty soon. Do you think there's any way, Clyde, that we could trick him into landing in Madrid instead, where bullfighting is legal? What do you think? Is it possible?
Let's hope. Let's hope.
I think I'm just bitter because I got booted off the last time I was on the show. Okay, so first of all, guys, if you have questions about Rolex buying, selling, or other horological endeavors, please throw them up into the comments here. I will go back. I know a couple of you have already done so. We'll go back and address those. But first, I want to ask Clyde to talk to me a little bit, Clyde, about the Lyrique Etude #1, which I'm probably going to mock. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna.
Oh, that's all right, because you have a little understanding.
Tell me more about you and the love affair that you're having with Bill Sanders, please. Enlighten me.
Well, if you neglect your loved ones, they start straying.
I don't. Okay, that's Clyde. For those of you in the peanut gallery, that is Clyde poking me for not calling him enough and not having him on the live stream enough. But frankly, I do want to put this out there for the punters and also for you, Clyde. I'm writing my 3rd book, and I'm on deadline. So, this is not a matter of, hey, spend a month. This is a matter of spend like 8 months. With my head, So well,
it's not like the last one where you had more than an unusual amount of downtime to write it.
No, it's like now I'm busy. So what can you do? All right. Well, anyway, talk to me about you, Lyrique Etude #1, and the inimitable, the irrepressible, the semi-conscious Bill Sanders. Talk to me, Clyde. Tell me.
Well, and like I said, and I understand that you, for some reason, you and Bill don't get along, and that's fine. I mean, we're all adults.
Exactly. Yes.
But Bill has done a lot of work. He's done a research. He's interviewed a lot of people. Watch some of the great independent watchmakers, literally the world.
I see.
So he's got really some high-powered names in his Rolodex.
So right?
At one point during the worst part of the pandemic,
you're talking about like TGV, Archie.
No, those are the substandard names in horology.
Random Rob, myself, Bruce Williams, Hisham Habib, people who have run over watches. That's a small subset of our group here.
That is a very small subset. It's very exclusive.
Right. So Bill has had consensual relations with FP Journe and a few other people, and then what happened? I told you. I'm sorry, Clyde. I did warn you.
That's all right. But let's even here's the funny part. Even Bear basically admits that has begrudging respect for Bill Sanders. He does for even you. He basically says that I'm kind of like Mark, the dog train away, because I have to go out and chase hype watches. He said Mark really does nothing but chase hype watches. And I said, no, he has a lot of shitters too.
Well, that's not, that is definitely an aspect of my collecting ethos on the one hand. On the other hand, here's a watch with a lot of horology that like almost nobody ever heard of, so, and maybe I have a drawer full of shitters also, but
I heard about Glashütte Original from Bill a long time before I heard about it from you.
Yes, but does Bill have one?
How many FP Journes do you have?
Okay, Bill has more horology than I do. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely true. And Bill often forgets where he is and how to get home. Bill also has more depends than I do. So, this is a balance. Here's the reality, though. I mean, actually, the thing with Bill and me is personal. And the reason is he just didn't like me. For the same reason, in a weird way, that Bear didn't like me, which was we fought on MDWE, Modern Day Watch Enthusiasts. Now,
right.
Bill, I got to kick out of MDWE twice. Bear only once. But the funny thing is that Bear and I have come to have a grudging respect for one another.
I would agree with that.
His collecting ethos, which is to say what it is that he's after, what he collects, we're like identical. The only difference is he's got like more,
Yeah, and better ones.
Yeah. No, well, he's just got more. He's got more watches. I don't know.
He's got more of the hype pieces. I'll put it that way. Let me put it this way. If it came to if this was like nuclear missiles, Bill would be the U.S. and you would be the Soviet Union.
Bill? No, you mean Bear. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bear. Yes.
Bill would be more like, let me think, who would Bill Sanders be? Bill Sanders would be like, your confused uncle who forgets to come, who goes.
No, Bill Sanders would be like the country from the mouse that roared.
There you go. Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about nonsense like this. If we're not careful, very quickly we will be talking about crappy, and I don't think we should do that. Let's go ahead and read a couple of the viewers. LV asks, what do you see the Panda going down to? 25K. You have an opinion on that before I share mine, Clyde?
Well, and like I said, your opinion is probably closer since I think you actually have a Panda and I do not.
I do. Well, listen, here's the general gist of this. There has been no time better to buy from the AD than right now. Now, that's a whole can of worms that we can and will talk about if y'all want to during this live stream. The people who have gotten hurt on Rolex, and there are some, or let's say specifically on the Panda, the people who have gotten hurt on the Panda are those who purchased at, let's say, the high of $48,000 to $52,000.
Yeah. And
then sold. So they have realized losses. I mean, if you bought at 50 and now it's selling right around 35, I don't think 25 is the right number, but I think it's around 35 right now. Theoretically, that's a loss of $15,000, which is what, like 30%. But it's unrealized. Okay, that's like the stock has gone down, but you didn't sell it, so you didn't realize the loss yet. And if it goes back up, well, not only will your unrealized loss potentially turn into a gain, but maybe a good gain. So I don't think there are many people who got hurt by Rolex other than those who were treating the Panda as a speculation, right? If they were buying and selling it, without regard to the collector ethos that we have. Seems to be the word of the day. By ethos, I mean the love of the watch. Yes.
Believe it or not, I was actually talking to now he's Machine Gun Chris.
I don't know who that is.
It was
my toothpick friend.
No. That's another one entirely.
Machine Gun Kelly. Who's Machine Gun Chris?
The Watch Lounge. Nice guy, micro channel, and then he more or less just went for it and got a job over at Luxury Bazaar and works for Roman Sharf. So he's kind of well embedded in the secondary watch market.
Well, the people who listen, here's the thing: the secondary watch seller is always going to make money if, and there are some ifs. The primary one is if they don't borrow money to buy watches, which a lot of these guys did, a lot, because when it was easy, it looked like simple money. So they borrowed money, ramped up inventory, the prices fell. Now they owe debt service, they owe money, but the inventory which they purchased is worth less than what it used to be, even though it was going up like 10% per month. But those people are carpetbaggers, Clyde. They don't live in the world of watches the way we do. I mean, did you hear from any of your non-watch friends during the frenzy saying, "Hey, how do I get into watches?" Because I sure.
Oh yeah, there have been quite a few attorneys that have done that. But here's also the thing: what his report is that he calls it a softening. And God knows you hate to hear about men being softened, but he said the high pieces have gone down a little bit.
Yeah,
but he said, and it's softened a little bit, but he said the demand is actually going back up. Basically, he said, despite everyone screaming that we're in a watch crash, he's like, Clyde, this is the best month I've ever had.
Well, as long as the watch dealer,
collectors have rushed in to take advantage of of quote unquote the market crashing.
Well, like I said, the collector will always make money with a couple of provisions. And the first one is they don't borrow money. And the second one is they don't overpay. So what collectors have become more clever and more rapacious than ever before. Rapacious, Clyde, they're rapacious. And that is why, by the way, as Dr. TikTok says, never sell Rolex becomes ever more important. Because here's
hey. Please take your head off when you quote Blue Shirt Buddha.
Heart over.
Much respect.
Right.
I hope you're in a better place, Blue Shirt, and by that I mean away
Well,
from our
he's
country.
certainly in a better place than being on this live stream. Although I suspect he'd rather be with us than not, you know. But the reality of it is as follows: the watch dealer earns a margin between the buy and the sell. Now that sounds stupidly simplistic, but watch owners, who typically people who own like a Rolex watches, usually are, you know, fairly upscale people who are adept in their own businesses, or they wouldn't be in the position of buying and selling Rolex, but they don't understand that business. You know, maybe they're roofers and they know how to sell a bunch of roofs, or they're salespeople. But the reality is that if you think about it, you buy low, you sell high. This is the way capitalism works. Okay. So when you people are seeing $35,000 right now, $38,000, I could buy a Panda box and papers on Chrono 24 right now. When you call Roman or Federico or David SW or any of these guys, they're not paying you $38,000. They're going to pay you more like 29.5, 30, 31 is my best guess.
And this is okay. This is the way this is the best way I can think of explaining it. Okay, because we look at these watches and we view them almost as like holy relics. They're special. They're unique. They're like our children. Meanwhile, watch sellers view these pieces like someone working in a dry cleaner or a laundromat views piles of underwear.
Well, that's
they don't want to touch. They don't want to touch any underwear unless they get paid to move the underwear.
Right. You know, funny story, Clyde. I had a partner in one of the businesses that I was involved in some years ago. It doesn't matter what the business was. They sold X, whatever it was.
They sold sex?
This is the products that they sold.
They sold ecstasy.
No, actually it was locks. Okay. So they sold things in the lock industry, which is a lot of different kinds of things. But I remember, and this guy was very, very, very smart. He owned, I would say his business empire was probably at that time was about a $30 million, net empire. So it was like a big deal. This guy was a big deal, and he was super smart. And I respected the hell out of this guy. And he taught me a whole lot about business. And one time I started talking to him about the love of the locks, because you know what? He was born into that industry, as was I. I'm third generation in the lock industry. I've been in dogs, only since my childhood, but my great grandparents were in the lock industry, if you will. So, and he looked at me and he said, well, my dad had passion for locks, and his dad had passion for the locks, but I'm a businessman and I have a passion for numbers. He said, so to me, the locks are units, and those units could be locks. They could be brassieres. It really doesn't matter what they are. It's a numbers game to me. And that's what watch dealers, are. Now, most of them have gotten into watches.
Well, brassieres, there's also letters as well as numbers. Fair
point.
Thank you.
Yes. What are you, Clyde? Double D. Anyway, I'm getting up there. I'm like a solid B cup myself now. Anyway, like what, 38B probably. And maybe I could get a date. But look, the long and the short of it is that these guys get into the watch game because they understand it, which means, typically they like it, but at some point it becomes units, and it becomes profit, and it becomes margins. So when you sell your Rolex to a dealer, you are going to sell at the gray market wholesale price, which right now is quite low. I have had more than one authorized dealer, more than one AD has called me to discuss what their advisors are telling them on what they should pay for used Rolex, and it has torpedoed. Their guys are basically telling the AD, if you buy used Rolex right now, you should essentially steal it because you may be holding it for a while. So if you sell and this is not any specific AD, this is just or gray market guy. This is the there's the mug, the famous mug. I mean, this is the way the business goes right now. If they think
for you,
if they're buying a watch from you, let's say a Panda, if they're buying a watch from you right now that they believe that they can sell today for 35, they're not sure what that price is going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow it might be 33.
Right.
So they're going to want to pay about 29. And what they want to make is typically, it's higher than ever. I think they want to make about 25%. And now they're padding. I feel like they're padding their buy offers a little bit right now. There are some exceptions to that. There are, you know what? David SW, I think, is a pretty good example. David SW is a good example of a dealer who can command a higher price for a used Rolex than many other dealers can. And the reason he can command that price is he is well known, he is very trusted, and he will stand behind that watch for a very long time. And therefore, he can pay a little bit more. So, props to David in Orlando. I think he's running a very, very smart business. He has sort of created a sub-brand to the Rolex. So like a David SW Rolex may be worth more than an XYZ Rolex. But basically, all these guys need to discount a whole lot off of the current sell price. They have to also anticipate that the price could drop. And then they have to refurbish or at least open that watch so that they can service it, maybe buff it up, and then they have to stand behind it. They don't know. Maybe you dropped it before you sold it to them, and they're going to sell it to the next guy, and they have to be responsible for whatever happens to it. So will the Panda go down to 25? Here's the thing. I hope so. Like, that would be good. I think that would be a good thing. I don't think it will. No, I do not. I think like 32 is going to be its low. I think the slide is going to stop because, just as you said, Clyde, people are going to pour into the market. They start seeing $35,000 Pandas. They're going to buy them. Don't you think?
Yep.
Me too.
It would be nice to see them going down to 25, unless, of course, yeah. That's only for the people that didn't get them at MSRP.
You know where I give, well, that's a good point. Listen, where I give an awful lot of credit to Archie was he was the first guy that I ever heard say, why buy a new Rolex for $10,000 when you could buy a used Rolex for $7,000 and it's just as good?
Yep.
And he was 100% right.
Oh, yeah.
He was just ahead of his time on that. But today, the $10,000 Rolex at the AD is now at least the $18,000 Rolex used. So I don't know if we'll ever see those days come back, but I'll tell you this. Two guys who I respect a lot made YouTube videos about the Panda and its resale price, okay? Long time ago, a few years ago. And those guys are Eric and Federico. And Eric made a video when the retail price on the Panda was $12,000 and the resale was $18,000. And I remember him making this video saying, damned if I would pay $18,000 for a $12,000 Panda. I can't wrap my head around it. It's not worth it. No, I'm out of the market in the personal sense. And then maybe about a year later, Federico made essentially the same video saying, I can't wrap my head around $22,000 Panda. There's no way. I like the watch, but there's no way that I would personally pay, maybe for my business, maybe, but I would never pay this for a Panda. And then they went to 50, Clyde. So it would be a good thing if they come down to 25. I made a video where I reviewed mine. I paid MSRP for it, which was, I don't know, like 13 at the time, I guess. And here's what I think. I think it's undervalued at MSRP. I think it's underpriced at $13,000. I feel like it's underpriced. What do I think it's worth? 20. I mean, as a watch, I think it's worth like 20 grand. I wouldn't pay more. Did you just put your glass eye in a cup?
Yes.
I wouldn't pay more than 20 for it myself. And here's why. Although it's an incredible watch, there are, Clyde, what chronographs do you like for $20,000? That's like 10 to 20. Clyde, come on, man.
Hold on. Almost there. Hold on. Okay, you ready?
You got to stop.
Boy.
Okay, I've Clyde, unmute yourself when you're done clinking because it's really going to cause people to bail on us. But in the meantime, while Clyde is doing the dishes, we're trying to fish his glass eye out of the shot glass, or while he's busy playing beer pong. The reality of the situation comes down to the following. In the $20,000 range for a chronograph, you've got, bless you, you have, I don't know, what do you have besides Zenith, Clyde? What do you like for, you have a lot of chronographs, but
yes.
What would you spend $10,000, $15,000 on a chronograph today?
Well, like I said, I still have the Moonwatch. I still have the Breitling. I love the Breitling.
You could get
59.
What? Say it again. That's the Navitimer reissue, right?
Yep, reedition.
Yeah, but if you were going up to 15 grand, you could get a proper vintage Navitimer, couldn't you?
I had one of the early ones, but long before they were 15, and it's not nearly the watch. It had a manufacturing defect. The bezels on those things popped off. Oh, that's a cute picture.
Yo. Okay. Well, anyway, do I see the Panda going down to 25? This has been a long way of saying no, but I hope so. Because I think that if it goes down to 25, more of the carpetbaggers will get rid of them, and more of the Rolex lovers will be able to buy them. And I am all in favor of that. What do you think of the so-called crash in the watch market, Clyde? Is it a crash or is it a correction? What's going on here?
Hands, knees, and toes. How the freak did you know that?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. Listen, if you look at Bitcoin, that's a crash. If you look at the stock market, that's a correction.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty, it's a stiff one, but this is what happens in financial instruments. And unfortunately, the watch market went from being the watch game, the watch hobby, the watch passion. It went from that to becoming financial instruments. That has not been good for the collector. Okay.
No, it hasn't.
Right? There's 96 guys in the room right now. And trust me, none of them are, guys trying to figure out how to make a buck on watches. They're all trying to figure out how to stay in the game. They love watches or y'all wouldn't be here. So in my opinion, this correction is driving the carpetbaggers out, and it's a good thing. Things just got too hot too fast. That was unsustainable. Things are going to retrench, and then they'll grow again. That's the nature of life.
Do you want to let Marcella time on?
Nope.
All right. Also, A. Gates is here. A. Gates. AJ's one of the good guys. Hey, AJ, how you doing, man?
Never sell Rolex. Never sell Rolex. Never sell. Ashes wants to know if I was drinking. I was. I had just completed the evening Negroni. I mean, I've got this theory. Okay, come at me, bro. Gin is made of herbs and berries, which are good for you. Vermouth is made of grapes, which have antioxidants and are good for you. Campari, well, nobody knows what Campari is made of, but it tastes a lot like medicine, and medicine is good for you. And these are the three ingredients in a Negroni, and therefore a Negroni is good for you. This is
hashtag Archie Logic.
Well, people are hit the like button, says J Kid. Yes, please do me the favor and lick that like button. I will certainly appreciate that. That will help me. It will not help Clyde, but it will help me. G-Motion EDC says buy. J-Dub says hold. I'm kind of torn in the middle. I am doing, to be honest with you, here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to do both. And here's what I mean by that. First,
do you mind if I step away for just a quick second?
I wish you would. Okay, Clyde. Tell me when you're back.
All right. Thank you. Actually, I'll unmute you.
Thank you. Thank you, Clyde. Just let me know when you're back. Okay, so I kind of am taking a buy and hold position, and here's what I recommend you do. You can do what I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing. First, on my Rolex collection, I'm holding. Why would you want to sell as prices are leveling down? You wouldn't want to do it. Your losses are unrealized losses. If your collection was worth $50,000 yesterday and it's worth $32,000 today, yes, that's a $18,000 differential, but you don't realize the loss. You don't physically take the loss until you make the sell. and then your assets are now traded back into dollar. Don't do it. Just enjoy your watches. Don't worry about the price of them. That's what I'm doing. I don't even if you paid 50 grand, if you're the rare putz who paid 50 grand for a Panda, don't worry about it. Just hold on to that thing. So I sold Rolex before in my life? I have. Have I regretted it? Almost every time. Not every time, but I have regretted almost every Rolex sale I have ever done, and I'll walk you through that. And then I'm going to walk you through I'm going to walk you through why I'm not selling, so why I'm holding, and what and how and why I'm buying. So I'm getting to the point, guys. I have sold with impunity Rolex watches that I didn't like. And when I first got into this game, I didn't fully know what I liked and what I didn't like. And like so many of you, I had to sort of develop my taste buds for watches. By the way, quick fist watch check, wearing a Glashute Original Panorama CQ date in bleu. Okay. So I didn't really know what I liked, and I bought some older Rolex watches. I'm talking about Rolex from like the 90s and maybe the super early 2000s. Those were the watches that had the aluminum bezel inserts on the dive watches. I had a few of them, man. I had a no date sub, which Clyde, you loved that no date sub. I had a Sea Dweller 16600, and I had a 16613, which is a two-tone bluesy, but all in the aluminum bezel insert with those crappy clasps that were made out of stamped tinfoil. And what I discovered was I didn't like them. I hated them. I had a real anti-reaction as the more I knew. Bracelet stretch, hollow center links, just garbage. I think Rolex somebody should be flogged for having manufactured those watches. Now, maybe if you look at them in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, okay, fine, everybody was doing it. But by the 90s and the 00s, most of these companies had already come a long way, and Rolex was just very slow to the quality upgrade party.
Yep.
You know.
Okay, I thought about something.
Did you?
Yes. Well, something you said earlier. You earlier said that Jen was filled with juniper berries.
Yes, I did. I did say.
Well, how do you know? How deep inside of them did you go?
So anyway, what we're talking about here, Clyde, is Rolex. And eventually I discovered that those old Rolexes with those cruddy clasps, hollow center, I just didn't like them. Sold them off. I've never looked back. All of them are worth more now than what I sold them for. They all are. And maybe in another 20 years, they're going to be worth like crazy money, but I don't miss a single one of them. That being said, it's the modern stuff that I sold that I regret. Now, first, statement of truth and fact. Hand to God, I have never, ever, not even once, sold a Rolex that I bought from an AD. The ones I have sold, I bought on the gray market or on eBay, and I sold back the same way. But I regret it. I sold Clyde, I sold a two-tone Sky Dweller, the most complicated watch that Rolex makes in the modern era. I mean, that movement has over 400 moving parts and tons of patents. It's pretty cool. I had the creamy white dial. I bought it for 13, sold it for 14.5 a year later. And I was like, wee, I made money. Wow. And I wasn't wearing it that much. I don't know. I just got bored, which is stupid. I got bored with my, we'll get there. I got bored with my G.I. Joe, and I sold it. Now they're like 23. So basically I can't, even at the low, they're like 23 right now. So basically I can't buy back my own watch. So I'm not selling anything. I have them for pleasure. If they're an investment, all I want to know is I can get my money out of them at some point. I just don't want to lose money. So I'm holding. Now, what would I buy? I would buy Rolex that other people are bailing out of in distress. So, but I would pay, like kind of low for them because I'll have that same concern that the watch dealer will have. So I recently got a green OP41. It's a Stella dial. It's one of the cool, difficult to get dials. I paid $10,000 for it. I'm super happy with that buy, Clyde. But, anyway. Did you tell me there's a stupid chat? I got to go find it. Here we go. There it is. Timepiece Esquire, $4.99. I ridiculously overpaid for my Batgirl, 23, and my Oyster Pepsi, 31. If prices are going down even more, should I sell now and buy back later? That's trying to catch a falling knife, as they say. That is like throw a knife up in the air and then try and catch it. Could you make money if you do that? Maybe, but if you time it wrong, you're going to lose your watches and you're going to lose your money. I sold that Sky Dweller that I'm talking about, and your losses, Timepiece Esquire, if they are at all, if you have any losses, they are unrealized losses. They are paper losses. You haven't lost a nickel. Why don't you just hold tight and wear the damn things? Why don't you try and get $23,000 of pleasure out of the Batgirl and $31,000 of pleasure out of the Pepsi? And honestly, I don't think the Pepsi is down much more than that. I think maybe the Batgirl is a little, and not only that, when you go to sell them, you're going to get reamed.
Basically,
reamed.
AJ said that black subs, realtors and mortgage brokers dumped them after the 2008-2009 debacle. They'll do it again.
Yeah, well, okay, fine. So maybe these guys are, buying and selling every single day. A realtor and a mortgage broker, they have their finger on the pulse of the market because they're in it every single day. But Timepiece, you're not a watch dealer. You wouldn't be asking me this question. Here's the thing. You bought your Batgirl at 23. Let's say it's selling for 19 right now. That means you're going to be selling it for 15. And then that Pepsi you paid for, if they're selling for 32, 31, 29, you're going to be selling it for 24. You're going to get killed. And then they're going to go up and you will be unable to buy them back because you will sell at the gray market wholesale low. And then you will buy back at the gray market wholesale retail. Sorry, at the gray market. You'll sell wholesale, you'll buy retail. There is no profit in that. You will get key. Don't do it. Enjoy your watches. You have unrealized.
It's just like, and people that sell, they'll trade in watches or to buy watches. That is the worst way to buy a watch.
Her life sent back and love your blogs or someone to listen to. The ingress of yours somewhat implies that Rolex is a financial instrument. Same cue goes for stocks, Bitcoin, gold, and real estate. I think he's talking to somebody, other than me. It's some crosstalk. But the reality of it is that to the 120 people in this room right now, Rolex watches are an object of pleasure, just something to enjoy that hold their value, which is a nice thing because cars usually don't.
Right.
But a watch will if you buy the right watch. But a lot of carpetbaggers moved into this hobby, and they didn't treat it like a hobby. They treated it like they did Bitcoin as a speculation. And if they're getting killed right now, good. Let's get them out of this. Let's get them out of our hobby. We don't want you here. If you only bought watches in order to hoard them and profit on them, then you don't love them and you don't deserve them. And I hope you get creamed. If the Panda goes down to cheaper than its original MSRP, that will be a great thing for this hobby. Not going to happen, but it would be a great thing. Norway, you are Norwegian, Herleif. Excellent. And a lot of the guys quoting never sell Rolex, and I completely agree with this, of course. What are you doing, Clyde?
I'm just a guest on your channel, so I was waiting for you to address me or ask me a question or something.
What's your address, Clyde, if people would like to send you, anthrax or anything in the mail?
Well, it's in Brisbane.
You'll know the house because there's paint splashed all over the driveway. Right? Okay. Ashes says, I still prefer the 40 millimeter maxi case sub. The 41 is a little too big for me. The clasp too thick. I think he means wide. The 21 millimeter between the lugs is, I don't know, too much watch for me. And honestly, I agree with Ashes. Now, Clyde, have you tried on a new 41 millimeter sub yet anywhere?
I saw one. I actually saw one right next to a 40 millimeter. I think I took a picture of them together.
Did you? But did you put it on your hairy little wrist?
No. It's time.
Thank you. So I've only ever tried one on once, and my AD sold me a bright blue OP41, and she had an exhibition only bluesy, right? The 41 millimeter bluesy. So I tried that on, and here's what I found. The watch head itself is indistinguishable from the 40. I mean, yes, the lugs taper in a little bit, so they're kind of a little bit more elegant, but the watch head between the 40 and the 41 really didn't feel any different. However, when you roll your wrist over and you look at the clasp, then what Ashes is talking about is very apparent. And actually, on the Cardinals group, Tan has always said the same thing. Tanzil, half of America's, right, Clyde?
Okay, Tanzil, part of Tang. North America's favorite biracial same-sex couple.
Exactly. Well, anyway, he's always said, he warned me in advance that clasp was like wider on the wrist and longer. And he was right. So when I wore it, had I not been able to compare it to my 3 40 millimeter subs, the black steel, the Hulk, and the gold, the full gold, I might not have noticed it, right? But I am able to compare it to those watches, and I like the 40 millimeter maxi case better. And it is cheaper because it's, like not the current model that everybody wants. So honestly, I think that's the sweet spot in subs right now, is that old 40. Mark, good to see you. Mazel tov on your new book. Where can I pre-order a copy? Well, Craig, let me thank you for
What an excellent question.
It is an excellent question. And now I'm looking around for a copy of my own book. I have to go get one, Clyde. It's right across the room. Don't leave me. Stick with me.
Should I leave them? Type 1 if I should leave them.
You're not going anywhere. Well, first off, let's talk about this book right here, The Art of Training Your Dog, which is available everywhere books are sold, including on Amazon.com, where you can order your copy in hardcover. But you can now pre-order the soft cover version of this, the paperback edition. That'll be available September 6th, and you can pre-order that now. But there's a brand new title that we're working on, Craig, and you can't pre-order a copy of it yet. It's too early, but
now, however, if you super chat, you'll be given an extra special link and be one of the first people to buy.
Exactly. It's a better call.
I'm just completely that now.
I'll let you know. I will keep you people informed. But the wheels of publishing grind but slowly, Clyde, just like justice. Very, very slow. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Ghislaine. Rich reviews.
Super Snake says collectors never overpay. No, they underpay. Usually they will. I mean, look, the collector has to make a living, and they have a place in this industry.
Super chat, by the way.
I'll get there, Clyde. Thank you, though. I'll tell you what. After we talk about
where he comes from, I mean, some habit stuff.
I'll find him. But anyway, I don't mean to diss. I don't mean to diss the watch. The watch. What do we call it?
Flippers.
No, not the flippers. The guy who sell the watch dealers. I don't mean to diss the secondhand watch dealers, because they have an important role in this industry. But making you money is not one of them. Making themselves money is one of them. The service that they pay to this industry is they make available watches that would otherwise be impossible to acquire. So, but you got to let these guys make a living, or they wouldn't bother, right? All right, let me find that super chat, Clydesy. And here it is, Timepiece Esquire again. I also want a Meteorite Pepsi. Buy now or later. Well, I mean, there's no time like the present. You can't time the market. I love the Meteorite watches. I love all the Meteorite watches, but I'm going to make the assumption, based on the purchase prices that you listed for your Pepsi and your Batgirl, that you're buying on the gray market. So that means more than likely you haven't got an AD relationship, and you need an AD relationship to buy almost anything at retail, let alone a Meteorite.
Yeah. I mean,
anything, right?
I don't think, Meteorite dials have always been rare. It's not like they just fall out of the sky or anything,
That was rude, Clyde. I almost spit all over my computer. Well, they kind of do fall out of the sky, but they are rarer than hen's teeth. Isn't that like an Oklahoma type saying?
Yep.
Thought
Dun,
so.
dun, 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 dun.
Green Acres. What's the origin of hen's teeth, Clyde? You're raised in Oklahoma. I assume you know. Do hens occasionally have teeth, or never?
I think they use them to peck through their own eggs when they're.
That'd be the egg tooth, but that falls off after they hatch.
Oh wait, let me ask.
Go ahead, Alexa.
Hey Alexa, how come Mark doesn't know how to use Siri?
You know, my Alexa is now going off. Clyde, ask your Alexa who's Mark Goldberg dog trainer. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey Alexa, play contemporary Christian music.
Oh God. You got to stop that now.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop.
Alexa, off. I had to shut mine down too. You know, don't give me a copyright strike. But that was funny because mine went off too. I need to change her name to something like Secret so that can we change her name? I hope we can.
Well,
okay.
you know,
we better answer this question, Clyde. Here's the answer. Buy it if you have the fundage. There's no time like the present. Buy it now. It is probably somewhat less than it was, probably significantly less than it was, because in a meteorite, perhaps I know I'm not getting these numbers exactly right, but let's say it was 100 grand. It's probably like 90 now or 88, and that's a fair savings. If you try and wait until it goes down to 70, you're more likely to end up paying 104 for it. So if you can swing
Alexa,
it,
who is Mark Goldberg dog trainer?
Oh God, here goes mine.
Here's something I found on the web. According to worldoffbooks.com, Mark Goldberg is a nationally renowned dog trainer and former president of the International Association of Canine Professionals.
That bitch doesn't know about my books, but you know, we'll have to educate her a little bit more.
Thanks for telling me.
Oh my God, she's so polite. What can you do? Okay, hold on. I'm trying to catch up into these comments. Okie dokie. How important is Russia as a Rolex market? No idea. I wouldn't think terribly, only because although there are like oligarchs and super wealthy people in Russia, I don't think they have the population of a China. So I think that China and Asia would be a much greater market than Russia. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Russia was selling plenty of Rolex before they started the war, but I think they're probably dwarfed by the Chinese market, right?
I think you mean short-personed.
Tyler Tran says, I have a 40 millimeter Rolex Submariner ceramic bezel I want to sell. I think you come on every live stream and say the same thing. So go ahead, sell it. But if I were you, I would hold. I think those are great watches.
I don't think you should sell just the bezel. I think.
You know, that's a fair point. Why does he sell the bezel? What's going to be left? You know, Clyde bringing out the importance of proper English.
I'm a home builder, and I have a pretty good handle on what's happening in the economy. Watches are going to get much, much cheaper, in my opinion.
Well, we're not talking about watches, and we're not really talking specifically about the watch market. We're talking about Rolex, which is pretty much the gold standard. But as the rancher is wont to say, a rising tide lifts all boats. So when Rolex went stupid in price, it lifted up a whole lot of brands that went along with it because people started assuming that they were going to have the same shortages that Rolex has. So although I think that Rolex is going to be a steadily collected watch brand, I think that people who threw a lot of money into Breitling or Omega or certain other brands like that, could they be sorry? Yes, but I think your money is going to ultimately be safe with Rolex. There's always somebody who says, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. But you know, here we still are. Remember Y2K? People get shook up so easy, Clyde. You know, Y2K. How much tuna and water did you stock up on for Y2K? Tell me about that.
Fair amount of water. I remember going in the basement and sitting there waiting. By like 1:30 in the morning, it's like, fuck it.
You know what I did? I filled up the bathtub and then went to a bar.
Nice.
I pulled cash the night of before it hit 2000. And the kids out there have no idea what we're talking about. But the old timers, we remember. I went to the ATM just in case there was a shortage of money, and I filled the bathtub with water and that, and then I went to the bar. So, I was fine. Graph and watches. It's a high-priced jewelry. Just admit it. The fact that people pay $10,000 for a steel bracelet and a mini clock is crazy. A Cuban link gold chain for $4,000 has more gold than a gold sub. Mind you, Rolex doesn't. And that's 100% true. But there's a great deal of difference between gold and Rolex gold and Rolex steel, which is really, Clyde, what do we call it?
Rolex store or unobtainium.
Unobtainium. So listen, here's the reality of it. And it is crazy, Graph. I'm with you on this one. It is nuts that the intrinsic value of gold worked into a chain is not enough to compensate for the intrinsic value of the brand Rolex, but it's true. Rolex spends $1 billion with a B as in oh baby. They spend that in marketing on a decade basis. Okay, so every 10 years they're spending $1 billion, about $100 million a year. So, guys, no wonder people want Rolex. I think you're safe in Rolex, at least at this time. Even have an in-house movement. People shit on Yema, but their finishes is good. No, it is not. It is not. That's that's silly. And Yema is like basically a reinvented micro brand. So that's not. Graph says we need an edit function. We have one, Graph. You can leave. That's really super easy. And I got this little button called hide, which I just hit, and now you're gone. Voila, your wish has come true. Hans wants to know if I've been on a long expedition. I think he's talking about the beard. Well, what do you think of the beard, Clyde? Is it working?
It's rugged.
I think it's working. I mean, I work with monks a lot, Like, look at my book. It's written with the monks of New Ski. I work with monks. They all have beards. I felt a little jealous. Also, Bear Clooney had just the scraggly mustache. And then since I grew my beard, he's growing a beard out too. He's trying to look a lot more like Mark. And I think it made him look a little more handsome. So I think I'm on the right track here. That was not good advice. These people did not build a history with the AD and missed out on good. Well, I don't know what you're talking about there, Rich buddy. But the people who have missed out on a chance with an AD. Here's the funny thing. I absolutely recommend that people spend time to try and build a relationship with the AD. Most people won't do it. Okay, most people won't do it. First, people who have 10 grand in their pocket, 12 grand, 15 grand, they just want to spend it, and they get real pissy when people won't take their money. So, but as Bruce Williams says, no Rolex dealer owes you the right to buy a $30,000 watch for 15 grand. You are not entitled to a Rolex. So,
by the way, Bruce is really enjoying his Breitling, isn't he?
The one that you told him to get?
Yep. No, I didn't tell him.
Yeah, you were the inspiration, though.
Thank you.
Fair point. Speaking of which, remember that Tudor Panda chronograph you sold me?
Yeah.
Bruce designed that watch. It's very eerie, but maybe a year or more before they came out with it, he did a whole video on why Tudor needs to come out with a Panda that looks exactly like that, and he illustrated it and everything, and then they made it. It was freaky. Yep. Anyway. So look, first of all, people who want to spend 15 grand, they just want to swipe their card, get their points, and they get pissy that they have to kiss ass, to the AD. But the reality is when you go into the AD and you buy a Rolex, they're handing you the watch, and they're also handing you a blank check for X, if they sold you a Panda, for example, they only see a few of those a year. And if they sell you that for 13, 14, whatever it costs right now, they're also.
I don't know. I damn sure wouldn't give my ex a blank check.
But they're giving you a blank check for like 20 grand and saying, here, it's got your name on it. It's good for 20 grand. Just please don't cash it, because they get in Dutch with Rolex when they're.
No, they're handing you a bag of money in the shape of a watch, is what you're trying to say.
There you go. Bingo. So, I mean, of course, this is going to take a little massaging. And the reason is, for every guy, I wouldn't kiss Rolex ass. There's like 500 people who will, but they do.
Or you can either massage the AD, or you can go get it from the secondary market, and the dealer there will give you a massage, prostate massage.
Well, that's correct, but they will have purchased that watch. They will be making their 25%. They will stand behind the watch. I mean, it's worth it, and you can shop that around. If you aren't too impatient to build a relationship, admittedly, a relationship that's very long and possibly difficult to build. But if you're unwilling to do that, just spend the extra money and just go buy your watch on the market and save time. And for some people, I think they should do exactly that. And for some watch models, I have done exactly that. So, but
Boutique Liqueur, which I'll just proceed with the question. Day-date 40s are about $48,000. Is that the bottom, asked Booty Liqueur, or do you think it'll get lower?
We're talking about, well, I don't know what date is available for $48,000. Here's the problem when we're talking about day dates. They've made the day date for like 50 years. So there's like 20 different reference numbers out there. And I mean, you can get a day date, an old day date on a, on a leather strap, just a 36 millimeter watch head for like, $8,000-$9,000, maybe 10, maybe.
He says, Booty Liqueur says the date 40.
Well, the modern date 840. What's the question? Will it go lower than 48?
Yes.
That's pretty close.
Booty Liquor wants to know where the bottom is.
I mean, honestly, that's reasonably close to MSRP. So if you're in the market for one, if you like it, if you're not trying to make... Still there, Clydesy?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Okay. So if you're...
someone gave me a FaceTime call.
Yeah, probably. If you're not trying to make money off of your day date, if you just want to enjoy the watch and you want to get it now, and it happens to be the dial, the metal color, that you like, then I would be comfortable with that. If you have that money and that's what you want to do with it, you're not going to spend a bit less. You'll spend somewhat less if you get it at the AD, but not a ton, and you'll wait like a really long time. The AD used to be full of precious metal that they couldn't get rid of. So there was a traditional almost 10% discount, let's say, on Rolex gold. That doesn't happen anymore. And that's because Rolex flies off the shelf at the AD. So anyway, is it the low? It doesn't matter if it's the low. It's the current price. And frankly, it's a good price. So that's what I would do. I would go ahead and get it. The Rolex clasp, modern clasp, is worth every penny, especially on the sub. I want it on my Super Ocean. Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic clasp. It's we're talking about the Glide Lock clasp, right? It's incredible.
New message.
14 months into my Daytona wait time from the AD. Well, Dr. TikTok. So here's the thing. It took me 2 years. Took me 2 years to get mine. And my AD really likes me because I have a good relationship with them. And they're just really good people to do business with. So I really like my AD. The AD who sold me my Panda is James & Sons in Orland Park, although they got a couple of other locations, one in Chicago and in Indiana, but also now Naperville, new in Naperville, which I've got to go visit the James & Sons in Naperville store. Haven't been there yet. Got to go. But here's the point I guess I'm trying to make. The issue is this. It took 24 months for an AD who really likes me to sell me that watch. If your AD doesn't really like you, Dr. TikTok, then that wait list time that you're talking about is false, and you'll be waiting hundreds of months. Okay, so it just depends on the AD. My AD won't take an order. They won't tell anybody. James & Sons isn't telling anybody you're on a wait list unless you really are. But I can't tell you the number of ADs who have taken my information for the wait list and then have crumpled the paper, as I'm walking out the door. I can hear the crumple. I can hear the shredder, going as I'm walking out the door of certain ADs. So the Rolex wait list, every AD is an independent jeweler with a distribution contract with Rolex, and they are all different, guys. So
Every day is a winding road.
hope you get it. That is true. The Panda value is tanking because they can't compete with the Seiko Solar Panda. That's a nice watch, actually, and so is the Tudor. Clyde, you pawned your Tudor Seiko, your Tudor Panda chronograph off on me. I like it. I like, in some ways, it's definitely a more substantial watch than the Panda. But there is only one Rolex, and even though Tudor is a Rolex sister company, it's still not Rolex. I don't know, Clyde. What do you think? My theory is that Rolex wants to be Patek and Tudor wants to be Rolex. What do you think about that?
Possibly.
I mean, listen, if you want accuracy in watches, it's very hard to beat a good solar quartz watch. It's very hard to beat indeed.
Do you have any messages on your Alexa?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Not looking. Graph says no. I'm in the live stream, Clyde. I'm in it to win it. No watch is worth $20K unless it has had some sort of hand finishing or made part. Seriously, I mean, from the horological standpoint, I think Graph is 100% correct. I can't disagree with that. The market disagrees with that from the financial standpoint, right? Because look, as they say, Rolex is what do they say? It's hand finished or hand. That's a hand finished. Basically, Rolex says human hands have touched every watch. I forget how they, how they promote that. But my theory is, they're flying down. They're flying down a conveyor belt and they've got somebody's cut off finger going boink, 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 touching everyone as they fly down. Now, that could be unfair because maybe Rolex they're very, very secretive. So we don't fully know, but maybe they're casing, these watches up by hand or hand testing them. I know humans touch them, but it's a largely robotic business. So I can't tell you that you're wrong, Graph. I mean, on the intrinsic level, Patek Philippe, who hand makes every watch, they're worth their money. They make 80,000 watches a year, and Rolex makes 800,000. But Rolex is vying for that level of position. Honestly, it is. So I don't think you're wrong, but I feel like the market thinks you're wrong. So.
That's actually an opinion.
Well, pretty much everything here is opinion, unless we're getting into numbers. Numbers are math, but everything else here is Negroni logic. Negroni logic. Here's a man after my own heart. Amit Ashok says, "What do you think of the new Tudor releases? I think Tudor will slowly become what Rolex used to be, and Rolex will become higher tier towards AP. That's the plan, Ashok, or Amit." Amit Ashok, that is exactly the plan. I think that Rolex is vying for Patek level exclusivity with half the horology. They want the same money for half the horology, which is why they've been noodling the prices upward. They have been strictly controlling the supply. Right now, I feel like the gray market is doing Rolex's dirty work for them. And that's why they haven't shut the gray market down, which I feel like they easily could, because there's a serial number engraved into every watch. And all they would have to do is trace back which of these ADs are selling out the back door in great quantity and just kill their contracts. Boom, you done. You out. You no longer, because those guys are violating, wink, wink, their Rolex contract, and Rolex lets them do it. But in the meantime, that gray market is pushing all those prices upward for Rolex. I think what's going to happen is Rolex will kill that gray market as soon as they don't need it anymore. But I feel like they do right now. Tamer Fell says, don't sell at the drop. Be brave and hold. You're absolutely right. If you didn't sell in a rising market, why would you sell in a falling one? Says Hans Niedermeyer from Animal House. Also agreed. Kek Yi Tio says, does the Yachtmaster rhodium worth keeping? Is it worth keeping? Yes, it's a Rolex. Oh, that's another one that I bought on the gray market and sold. I didn't have the rhodium Yachtmaster. I had the blue dial one. I'm sorry I sold it. I mean, I bought it at a great price. I sold it at a profit. I guess what happens is, if you want to continue buying watches, sometimes you have to sell a watch, right? That's the thing. You can't just keep inventing new money, or this gets like crazy expensive. So I have tried to recycle some of the money, and but I've always regretted it when I look back. I don't miss any of the semi-vintage stuff. I'm glad that's gone. It used to just piss me off, those little dangly bracelets. On the other hand, Clyde, you like nothing more than a water-damaged dial. Am I correct?
What?
I said I didn't like my semi-vintage Rolexes, but you love nothing more than a cracked, faded, water-damaged, rusted dial, because you like all that vintage stuff.
Oh, yeah. Of course, I think you miss semis, don't you?
Yes,
Okay.
Indeed. Glory B says, is it just as hard to buy a Rolex in Vegas? Anybody know? The answer is yes. It's not just as hard. It's harder. Much, much harder. We're out, and I'll tell you why. Same reason why it's much, much harder to buy a Rolex in the Svarnapum Bangkok International Airport, or the Hong Kong International Airport, or the Incheon, South Korea International Airport. And the reason is it's a tourist destination, and there are 1 million people going through Vegas, stopping in at the Rolex and at the Vacheron and at the AP. There's 1 million people who go there on vacation, are in a spending kind of mood, want to try on watches, and they have nothing to try on and nothing to sell to you. You're not even local. So Craig is correct about this. Glory be, where is it? They will laugh at you if you walk into an AD in Vegas and ask for a hot model with no buying history. That's 100% true. And it's unfortunate because, if you have the money, why shouldn't you be able to buy the product? But the whole value of Rolex is you can't. And guess what? That's why we're talking about it. And that's why you guys want it,
Pretty much.
We wouldn't want it if we could get it easily. I mean, honestly, think about that. When you could buy a Rolex cheaper, I think back now, why didn't I buy all of them, Clyde? Because I didn't know is why. But, when I started watching Archie like 6-7 years ago, he said, go to the gray market and buy this stuff cheaper than at the AD. Don't be silly. And they had everything. Then they had everything cheaper than you could get it at the AD. But of course, there were a whole lot of guys at that time who wouldn't have been caught dead in a used watch. But I think, dude, was your wife a virgin? Have you never pooped?
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Right? Have you never sat on a public toilet? Have you never slept in a hotel? Do you know what's been done on that mattress and on those sheets before you got there? Right? Have you never eaten at a restaurant because that fork that you are licking right now has been in like 500 mouths, but you won't wear a used watch? What is wrong with you? People crazy, Clyde.
Exactly.
Well, Clyde, we have been here for 1 hour and 10 minutes. I think it's about time that we thank the good people for joining us. Have you got any bye-bye message for the punters?
No.
Well, I do. Thank you so much for having joined us. On behalf of the rancher, Clyde Anderson, and myself, Mark Goldberg, the dog trainer, thank you for being with us. Hit the like button. Please subscribe to this channel so that we can do it again soon.